The first thing that I would like to talk about is if we need to simplify something. If you have two symbols that are next to each other, and what I mean by two symbols, two positive or negative symbols that are next to each other, I want you to simplify it. For instance, if you had something like this, I don't want a positive sign and a negative sign next to each other. Now I know those parentheses are separating them, which is good, but I still only want one sign there. So would that make a positive 25 or a negative 25? It would make a negative 25. When the signs are different, it's negative. Yep. So same thing if you had something written like this. I didn't ask anything. If you had something written like this, which is possible, it's not going to be as likely, but this is kind of like subtracting a positive, which then also just means this, okay? And the one that confuses people the most usually is this one. That's kind of like saying minus a negative 25, but again, two negatives make a positive. So this really is a positive 25. So we have to be okay with those rules before we really get into the adding and subtracting rules, okay? And I heard some people quickly say stuff. So we want to be able to, I'll get to that in a second. All right, so let's do rules for adding and subtracting. Before we think about do they have the same sign or different signs, I want you to think about, can you simplify it? You want to make sure there's only one sign in front of each number. Simplify. So there is only one sign in front of each number. And sometimes you won't need to do that, and sometimes you will, okay? Like if we had something like negative 5 minus a negative 3. Before I thought about do they have the same sign or different signs, I want to simplify this so I don't have minus a negative 3. We just said that if we have a minus a negative, that turns into a positive. Now nothing happened to my negative 5. I did not change the negative 5 at all. But this minus a negative 3 changed into plus 3. Okay, so that is simplifying it. And again, we don't always have to do that, but if there's more than one sign in front of it, then we need to simplify it so we only have one sign in front of it. So now that we only have one sign in front of each of our numbers, we can think to ourselves, do they have the same sign or different signs? In this example, I have a negative 5, and I don't want you to think of this as being a plus 3. I want you to think of it as being a positive 3. So in this problem, they have different signs, okay? But I'm going to put the rules for both things up here. So if they have the same sign, what do you all do if you had the same signs? All right, so same signs. You add. You all, I guess, were taught something last year, which if you get it, great. I like saying add and keep. Because what you're doing is you're adding the absolute values and you're keeping that same sign. So I'm going to give a couple examples of that. For instance, if you had two positives, 4 plus 7, positive, positive, so you add the absolute values and it's positive. But it works the same way if you had negatives. If we had negative 3 minus 2. A negative. You probably have a really hard time seeing over here, don't you? You all? I try to just scoot over, but you know. A negative 3 and a negative 2, they both are negatives, so we add the absolute values and keep that negative sign. So negative 5. If they have different signs, we're going to subtract the absolute values and use the larger absolute values sign. So subtract and use larger numbers sign. So again, if they have different signs, you can think different and difference. Difference is the answer to a subtraction problem. You're going to subtract them and use the larger numbers sign. So we'll do a few examples of those in our steps here. Let's say we have negative 5 plus 8. So think of this as being two separate things. Don't think of this being plus. Think of this as being negative 5 and positive 8. The sign in front of it goes with it. So they have different signs. One's positive, one's negative. And because they're different, then I'm going to subtract the absolute values. 8 minus 5 is 3. And then I'm going to keep the bigger digit sign. 8 is bigger than 5, and 8 is positive. So this is going to be a positive 3. Let's do one where we have 10 minus 16. So again, we have a 10 and we have a negative 16. So a positive 10 and a negative 16. Different signs, so we subtract them and get 6. The bigger number is 16, and it's negative, so this is going to be a negative 6. Now we have some examples already down for like the normal things that we just had. Let's do negative 18 plus a negative 2. So this one is one of those examples of where you have more than one sign in front of a number. In front of that 2, we have a plus sign and a negative sign. So we need to, let's keep the negative 18. And what can we change this into? It's right. Okay? So we're rewriting this as negative 18 minus 2. Now, we need to think about our rule. Negative 18 and a negative 2, do they have the same sign or different signs? Same sign, so same sign is add and keep. Add them, keep. Done. These rules work the same if you have decimals. Don't let the decimals throw you off. Do they have the same sign or different signs? Different. So for different, do you add or subtract? Subtract. So let's subtract these, please. 9.5 minus 4.8 is 4.7, right? Now we have to think about, is this going to be a positive 4.7 or a negative 4.7? Why is it positive? I agree. That's right. The 9.5 is the biggest number, and it is positive. Did someone say hun to this or hun to something else? Is there a question? No? All right. What if we had 3/4 plus negative 5/6. And we kind of practiced fractions last Friday as our game. Some people momentarily forgot how to add and subtract fractions last Friday. Before I do anything here, I want to rewrite this. 3/4 stays 3/4. Does that become negative 5/6 or positive 5/6? So we have different signs here, so that's going to be a negative 5/6, yes. What do we do with that? Do we add them or subtract them? Why do we subtract them? Different signs. So different signs subtract. Now, in order to add and subtract fractions, we need to have common denominators, correct? What would be the common denominator of this? 12 would be best. Okay, we got it. Thank you. 12. So 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. 6 times 2 is 12. So 5 times 2 is 10. Now you said subtract them. You can do 9 minus 10 in your head. What is that? So a negative 1/12. Are we okay with this, or